Hello everyone and welcome again to the MiraBan UK Film Awards 2nd edition. I am welcoming Ed Picard, the author of Filmy, experimental short candidate for Best Experimental Short at our film festival. Welcome Edward and thank you for being with us.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So first of all, I'm going to speak with you about the short. Filmy is an experimental short that was produced in 2019. It's a story that has not a really real storyline because it's experimental. It shows us all the stages of how we see film produced through different kind of media. So it was from the Super 8 to the 16mm to the VHS and then digital. In this short, we see the passion of Edward for his fashion background and at the same time his love for film. So we can consider this short a declaration of love for film and fashion design at the same time. And a little information about Edward. He started his career with Thierrymugler, who's a famous fashion designer, and he worked with them on the big show called Wild. And with this experience in the background, he contributed to, develop his fashion experience. At the same time, his love for film shows in Filmy in this way. So thanks to this background, we can see a lot of Edward's skills in both fields. And I wanted to ask you, Edward, is it because of your fashion background that you decided to concentrate on the experimental genre in filmmaking?
Yes and no. I mean, like, this film was an opportunity because when I came back to filmmaking after 5 years with Mugler, I was like doing a lot of different things, but I was also focusing on things I learned with him. So things coming from live performance art and also fashion. And so I wanted to mix these two knowledge, I would say, into a film. And I made a fashion film just before, and I met Einat Dan, the art director on it. And she told me, yes, Ed, it would be nice if we can do something together, but something very free. We don't have a brief, we just do something like we want to do. And I had this old 16mm camera I wanted to use for a while. And I talked about it with my DOP and my business partner. And we said, like, okay, let's try to do something like which mix fashion and also our love of cinema. And let's try to use, like, to be the connection, the link between these two worlds. It would be like a different kind of format for each tableau. So yes, that was the main idea.
Right. And did you have the chance to explore the use of 16mm and Super 8 since you were a child? That's what you said in your director's statement. You
yes.
were exploring film.
It was more like H8. So what I use for the 90s, for the 80s part. So when I start as a kid, I start with this kind of analog camera, but I never used film properly. I mean, I did it when I was in film school, like Super 16. But it was more like kind of testing with like teachers and everything. It was not like a proper film. And but I never used, before doing this film, I never used like properly 16 for sure, and Super 8 either. And I used Super 16 a bit when I was in film school.
Right. And you graduated from Ezra, the famous French film school. So in a way, how did your career intertwine with the fashion design? Was it with the meeting in 2010 with Thierry that kind of did a shift?
I mean, that was by chance, actually. That wasn't on my life plan at the beginning. I was production assistant back in the day on different kind of film in Paris, and I met him on a short film. It was a special short film. He was doing it. He was directing and producing for. It was supposed to be broadcast the intermission of a show he was supposed to do in New York. So it was a link between the two parts, and it was very particular. It was called The Chromosomes. It was a reflection about sexuality, about genre, about everything. And I was second assistant director on this film, and things like went well between us. And then a few months later, he told me like, okay, I'm doing a show in Paris. It's a new cabaret, and I will need someone to be like my assistant, but leader of the art, like my assistant, but looking after like all the art department.
I see.
So that's the reason I say yes at the beginning, because I was just like, I was a runner. I was like second or third assistant director, and I had like no artistic responsibilities. And my goal was already to do something like to lead some project like this. So he gave me this opportunity. So yes, I follow it.
Definitely luck along with talent. Very good chemistry in that scenario.
Yeah, sometimes like life happens like this, and you don't know. Like a few days before, for me, I was like, I didn't think about that. So yes.
Yeah,
but anyway,
just jumped on the opportunity, basically.
Yes.
And about the timeline that you structure in FilmMe, we see, correct me if I'm wrong, the time period that I recognize watching it is at the beginning of the 20s, and then it shifts toward the 50s, 40s, and then later on towards the 80s, and then the last is a contemporary.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes, I mean the first part is not really the 20s. It's more like, I mean, it's the 20s with the style of the model, because the model is very 20s, and even like the way she moves and the way she acts.
The hairstyle as well.
But all the visual style is more like late 40s, early 50s, like film noir. So that's the reason I wouldn't say it's an homage to 20s, but it's more an homage of black and white cinema, like from the beginning of cinema. To the last, I would say the last black and white movie, which was the film noir at the late 40s, early 50s. And then the second part, is like the sexual revolution, clearly like pin-up and like late 50s, 60s, like this kind of image we can have like at this period of time. Third part is obviously 80s, and the last part is, yes, our time. But it's also like our time from the 90s to today, I would say. Because the music can remember like the 90s vibes, but yes, the fact I use like a DSLR to film and all these flashlights, it's very like contemporary. Yes, it's our time.
Right, a little bit of vintage in the end.
Yes.
And do you have a favorite one if you have to choose among all the timeline period, the period that you showed in the timeline? Which one would it be?
I mean, it's a good question, because I like them all, and that's changed, like during the editing, during the creation, or now, and when I see in festival, it's always different. But I mean, the one I always like, which always pop to my eyes, is the pin-up part, because I think like yellow color, the 1950s, like the pin-up,
the pin-up part, yes,
because I think it's like, maybe it's my favorite camera. And I think each camera has a special style, but this one is the one which has the more soul, I would say. And it was also the funniest to do, and the funniest to edit, and that's the music I prefer also. So yes, it's all this thing. But I love them all. But yes, if I had to choose just one would be the pin-up part.
And do you think that, do you feel something change in the fashion industry, in the way we also perceive it through photography nowadays? If you have to think about, your short as a video art project that in a way allows us to review how the fashion industry also changed through times. Do you think, photography has also changed the way we perceive it? Or is it like our misconception of fashion?
I'm sorry, I didn't get it. Could you rephrase the question?
Yes, I said, I mean, do you think that the fashion industry, in a way, is it changed also thanks to the way we have the use of photography on it now, or the way we perceive fashion?
Yes, I mean, like, I'm not a fashion expert, because I'm not a fashion designer, so like what I will say is just like my opinion, so I don't want like anyone to think like it's the way it is. But when I was working for Mugler, he always said to me something. He said like, fashion has to be inspired by the real world. and by everything you can see like paintings, on landscapes, on photography, on every art. And at one point, that's the reason he left the industry, because he thinks at one point it was a bit like self-centered. So fashion was inspired by fashion, and just fashion designers were inspired by other fashion designers. So hopefully, I hope like maybe fashion will change, because the reference are many now, and I hope the young designer will be inspired not just only by fashion, but like every art they can have and they can discover like around them. So yes, I hope like video and film especially is influence fashion industry today.
And did you consider to present Filmy in an art exhibition, for example?
I would love to, yes. I would love to. Like no one like it's still the beginning of his journey in festival. I mean, like the movie was made, like the film was made 1 year ago, but you know, with all this COVID situation, with like all the festival, like nothing happened for almost 6 months. So it's still the beginning of his journey in festival. So I hope, yes, I will have the opportunity to present it in an exhibition. I would love that. That's I never did that before, and I think that would be a great opportunity for the film, because I think it would fit in a kind of exhibition, of course, which is related to what the film says. But it would be nice, yes.
And do you think, because as I was saying in the beginning, the experimental has not necessarily a narrative in it, and your love for film is connected to fashion, but obviously you are mainly a filmmaker. Do you consider to do more experimental shorts, or you think you're gonna move towards a narrative style?
I mean, I did a lot of experimental since I mean, when I came back to filmmaking in 2015, and because before working for MiraBan, I did a lot of narrative short film. And when I came back to filmmaking, for myself, it was like more a challenge about, okay, I will write scripts on the side, and I will try everything I want to try visually before knowing a narrative. So the reason I did a lot of dance film, a lot of film with special effects, also a lot of music videos, and a few experimental films. So yeah, I think like Filmy for me was, I wouldn't say the last, because I hope I will do like other fashion film for brands, but my next personal project will be a narrative film, yes.
Okay. And one last question about the making of Filmy. How long did it take you, and you know, how was the experience of working on these different styles all together? Was it like a short deadline, a schedule, very fast, or it was actually, you know, you paced your own time, you gave yourself time to explore each scene?
It's we did everything in one day. So because of money mainly. The thing is, like, as we shoot a shoot, it's for sure easier to set up the set on some parts. I mean, some parts were very complicated. The black and white one is complicated because I wanted like a really traveling. I wanted the film to start like it starts. I mean, like, we think it's a film, and then we discover the wild tracks, and then we discover it's a shoot. So it's like all the movies about that. So I wanted this first shot was complicated to do. And then the 80s part was also complicated because that was the first setup, and we have to set up everything. But once you shoot in film, we have like a limited film stock, so we couldn't like shoot for hours.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
very expensive.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So yes, we have just like maybe 10 takes for each shot maximum top. And by example, the last part, like the last part, like the 2000s part, we shot it in like 45 minutes because I wanted to have like, there is no like a short list on this one. It was more like, okay, we will do it as we do it in fashion, like film shows like this now. So I just have a gimbal. I said to my DP, I just have a gimbal. I will turn around her, I will shoot her, I will give her some direction, and you follow me with the dolly around me. And you
also were in the scene, weren't you?
Excuse me?
With were you there in the scene?
Yes, I was filming her, and so I was acting the director in the scene. So so I wanted, actually that's something I wanted in the film. I wanted like everything you see with the other camera is really what I film during it was filmed. So we don't cheat a lot. I mean, it's everything is almost real. And so yes, I wanted to play with this space. That's the reason like the last part was very like fast to do. So yes, that depends on the part. But yes, a day was limited. Yes, I would hope to have more, but you know, it's how it is.
Yeah, it is also the expensive side of filmmaking as it was made in the past. Do you think I was considering the French artists, the French video of the past, and is there any particular French wave that inspired you in the style that you were going to use, or it just came out of your own, imagination with no precise background or reference?
Yes, I mean, like the camera I use, by example, it's a Beaulieu from 1958, and it's a camera which were used for the director from the New Wave, the French New Wave. So for me, it was also an important camera because it's a very important part of French cinema. I cannot say how French I am. It's difficult to say, but of course, when you grew up in a country where fashion and cinema are important, and after I went to school in Paris and I worked for a while with a French designer, even if he's very internationally in this way of working, but he's still French. Of course, that influenced me, but I couldn't say how in this film, because like I took some French reference, by example, like for the 1950s, like my reference of image was like this kind of like musical from the 50s, like Damien Chazelle in La La Land was very inspired by this film, like Les Demoiselles de Rochefort, etc. But all my other inspiration were like clearly American. So I don't know, but yes.
Yeah, in a way, in a mixture of both,
Yes, I guess so.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. I've noticed you have a poster of Cinema Paradiso in the background.
Yes.
So in a way, your attempt to make an homage to cinema, it also, I think, resembles probably one of your favorite movies, isn't it? Like a connection.
Yes, it's one of my favorite movies. Like I love Italian movies in general, and especially I'm not from this part because Cinema Paradiso is from late 90s, but I would say like more of 60s, 70s. But yes, Cinema Paradiso, it's a very complete film which tells a lot about a lot of things. So it's very important. It's not famous. It's not as famous as it should be. I mean, in Italy I don't know, but outside of Italy, it should be more known, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised how many people actually, even in the US, know Cinema Paradiso. In a way, yeah, you're right. It should be more known, but I've been surprised positively that people actually knew about it. And it's been a while since it came out in cinemas. So definitely, I would love it to be more, projected on TV again. Just give it on,
It's an
evening
in the UK, but yes, a lot of people discover it like. I'm not sure it's still on Netflix, but it was on Netflix in UK like a few years back. So
definitely, but it's a movie about why we do cinema, why we love cinema. So I think in a way it's connected to the homage you made with your film, and even if yours was more of an aesthetical exploration of cinema in its own way. It's
not the same. Yes, I hope one day to do like something which has the level of Cinema Paradiso, but if I do that, I could stop doing movies.
Absolutely. I mean, I really hope you will do it, and maybe one day submit it to our festival again.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it's been great to talk with you, Ed, and please, people who are watching this, make sure you watch FilmMe on streaming on our website, www.miraban.com. You can watch it from the 28th till the 30th of August, and you can also vote for your favorite film of the entire edition. It can be a short, it can be a feature, and it's going to win the Audience Award. So I really recommend to watch FilmMe. It's very short, it's very concise, it's also very, a pleasure to watch. So watch FilmMe by Ed Picard, and thank you, Edward, for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Bye for now. Thank you for being
Bye.
with us. Bye.